Those who are new to Caribbean Power Lunch, we uncover the stories, the journeys, and more importantly, the lessons of Black entrepreneurs and business owners from the Caribbean, and build a community to celebrate each other's success, to network, to collaborate with each other, and just overall positivity and good joy. All right, so today we have the Terri-Karelle Reid, social media personality of the year for 2020, online brand strategist, a speaker, virtual event host, international event host, human Ethernet.
Yes, sir.
You're Jamaican girl. Terri, how are you?
Yes, sir. I'm well, thank you. Thank you for that awesome introduction. And of course, hi everyone, the whole Caribbean massive. Big up yourself. For the yardies who are in the chat. Blessings. Thank you for being here.
You know, when we were talking earlier, right? You say, yes, we could identify all the yardies, all the Jamaicans, and big up to all the Jamaicans, because we see all these trudy names, you know,
We're like the Stacey-Ann, the Trudy Ann, the Peter Gays, the Terri-Karelles. Yeah, man, we have a thing for the dashes.
Yeah. You know, one name is not enough. So I mean, like, what's behind that? Like, what's behind that? Like, what?
You know, I don't know. We were saying that maybe it's a toss up between mommy and daddy wanting a particular name. I think Jamaicans feel like nobody know more than we. We feel like, you know, we're there, and you know, there can be three Stacies in the room, but I'm Stacey-Ann. So I am not common like the others because I have an Ann on my name. So I think the hyphenated names kind of give you a little edge from being like everyone else. I mean, I really don't know, but that's one of my theories.
All right. And another thing that really piqued my interest, right? Human Ethernet. So I know there had to have been like this process and coming up with that tag, right? Was he like how did you come up with that?
Right. Well, what happened is, and I think a lot of us have probably experienced it with our providers, you know, your Wi-Fi pop down, your cable pop down, you call up the operator and she says, okay, you know, you need to restart your router. And then they say, you know, there's an icon like your Ethernet. And when that icon starts to blink, it means that your connectivity has come back. And I thought, wow, that's pretty cool. It's a term used a lot with motherboards and computers and networking systems. And so I've always managed to connect dots and find stories in situations and circumstances that most people don't see. And then I'm able to connect and reach people and engage with people where they are. And so I was just like, okay, human Ethernet, yeah. I connect across networks.
Nice, and you know, you have that authenticity where it is relatable. I mean, our first conversation, and to me, you must be an extremely busy person, right? But you sat down and said, hey, man, 3 hours I'm in line, and the only reason that conversation had to end because I had to go.
You know? Yeah, you're right. You're right, and I think that's what connectivity is all about. I think Caribbean people are very good at spotting fake. We're good at spotting plastic and people who are putting on a particular facade. We can see right through it. And so anyone who is trying to be fake or trying to put on a facade, usually it doesn't last for too long. But when people are engaging and speaking and conversing, just being themselves, you find that those conversations then can just go on and on and on. And that's what our 30-minute prep session turned into a 3-hour vibe on Zoom.
Because of your Ethernetness.
I'm telling you.
All right, so let's get into some brass tacks, right? So
sure.
The theme of today is don't play small, right? Double down. Go, well, I don't want to use the term all in, but, you know, go full 100, right? And, you know, my father always had this saying that anything you're doing, whether it be polishing the shoes or mowing the lawn or your homework, always do it to the best of your ability. Don't do it halfway. Always give it 100%. You know.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So when we look at our lives, right? When we look at everybody in this room, everybody as young professionals and everything, we tend to struggle with this feeling of inadequacy. You know, not enoughness, right? We're not good enough. We don't deserve that promotion. We're not good enough to do that job, right? We can't get that contract. And when you go back to it, it starts with your environment, right? You look at your your immediate circle, your friends, your people who you know and trust, whose opinion you trust. And even worse than that, like people who you look up to, people who you admire, respect. And if they are to tell you, hey, stay in your lane, you can't do this, focus on this, that is what you're good at, don't try that. You know, it's already inherently limiting. Now for you, I want to get into like how you were brought up, because you were brought up with that. You were never told, hey, now you can't do this. You always told, hey, go.
I don't know what that is. I cannot relate to you can't do this. So for those persons who don't know me, I grew up with my mommy and my grandma. My grandma actually gave up her job so that my mommy, who at the time was about 22, just getting the job as a flight attendant for Air Jamaica, would be required to travel back and forth. And what my grandmother didn't want is she didn't want my mother to lose out on what she considered to be a great opportunity. So she actually sacrificed. And I mean, as Caribbean people, we always have stories of our grandparents or our parents sacrificing. And I grew up in this household with these two very strong women, where mommy was the breadwinner, she was the hard worker, and grandma, who was the nurturer. And grandma was always feeding me. And I think that is what the word is. We have to be careful with who we allow to feed us, because the information that enters becomes our reality. So here it is, I have a grandma who is telling me, yo, you're a superstar, you're amazing, you're excellent, you did an awesome job, you can do better, I know there's more in you. When you have somebody who is going to be feeding that to you from the moment you walked out of the womb, you have to understand that it becomes a part of your DNA. So as you're speaking about your father saying, do the best you can be, for me, I use the saying, excellence is unconditional. My grandmother taught me that you are not excellent because you're going for the job. You're not excellent because people are watching you. You are not excellent because you're trying to get the promotion. You are excellent as you breathe. Meaning, I don't need validation from anybody else in order to be excellent. So because that is the seed that was sown, and my grandmother watered that seed since day one, I literally grew with a level of confidence, so that whenever people came to me and told me, well, your light is a little bit too bright, or you go on so big, or you have so much confidence, I was able to kind of look at them and say, well, your insecurity has nothing to do with me. And I think that is probably one of the number one things that Caribbean people have a hard time dealing with, being able to look at people and going through and pushing through regardless of what people say.
Yeah. No. And I want to be careful in how I ask this next question, because it can be a little touchy, right? But while looking you up and everything, I mean, I always say, your mom, your grandmother and everything, but what about your dad? So many people, when we grow up in that single family household, whether it be an absent mom whether it be living only with your mom or you're living only with your dad, they always feel like they miss out on parts of an experience.
Right. No, it's funny. I mean, I can see Kevin kind of going, okay, let me be very careful with how I pose this question. Well, for starters, if we are West Indians, we know that most persons, I believe, I don't know the statistics, but most of us grow in single parent households. I can say for me, I only understood what daddy issues were when I got to college, because my grandmother and my mother, even though my father was an absentee father, my mother and my grandmother, one, never spoke ill of him. They never said anything negative about him. They literally just grew me as a complete human being. They wanted me to be a decent human being. And I think they approached it from a very mature level, which I think we still need to work on. So I didn't grow up hearing your father, this your father, not this your father, never. And I think that really helped me to grow with a sense of purpose. And I was not bitter, and my heart was not full of anger or hatred. I just think my mother and my grandmother did such a good job that I didn't know I was missing out on anything. I didn't know that there was this father figure that everyone always says if a girl doesn't have, she's going to lose her mind. And in fact, I will go on to say, and this might be unpopular opinion, that I think a part of my confidence is because I did not grow up in a family where patriarchy existed. Because most of my friends who grew up in households with fathers, as great as some fathers are and they're involved, fathers got the biggest pieces of the chicken. Fathers sat at the head of the table. Fathers were the ones who, you know, established the rules, and mothers played a supporting role. Fathers were the dominant characters. Now, if you remove that from me, all I see are women who are doing what they need to do, how they need to do it every single day. So I never grew up with the idea that necessarily the man is the head, which also removed any restriction from me showing up at meetings, and anyone, whether you are male or female, I was going to be excellent at what I did.
Yeah, and I see Nikisha.
So there's no hatred. Yeah, there's no hatred for him. There's no hatred. I have no ill will, but I just don't miss something that or someone that I just have not had the opportunity of knowing over 38 years. Did I just give up my age? Woo, Jesus!
You're a young girl, behave yourself now. You know, but no, I really love that, because, and I really love what your mom and your grandmother did, is that they focus on the positive, they focus on the task, they ignore, just like what you were talking about earlier, ignore the potential external vibes, external feeling, that feeling of heaviness. Say, hey, listen, I have this beautiful young girl to raise. I'm going to do the best job I can with this girl. And as a result of that, you don't even realize that, hey, yeah, I was missing this, you know, and you get to
totally oblivious. I was totally oblivious. So I only heard about the effects of not having a father when I was now in my I was 19, 20, and I went, I can't relate, because I just didn't experience that.
Yeah. All right. So, right, you're still on childhood a little bit, right?
No problem. Somebody said 30, how much? Wow.
I'm just trying to tell
38.
A young girl. Yeah, girl. Listen, 40 is in your 30, you know. 40 is in your 30.
So them say. Go ahead.
Right. So you always had this love for animals and stuff, right? I mean, I don't know if that's part of your human Ethernetness, or if that's, you know, that's connecting with other creatures. You know, so you tell us about that experience, you know, with all these pets growing up, and you always wanted to be a pet.
Kevin, let me tell you something. Yeah, big up to all the 82 babies, because I see the comments coming. There's a phenomenon that a lot of my friends used to always notice about me. If all of us are walking down the road, the stray dog, I swear, will come to me. A goat, a pig, a bird, whichever animal we were around, it would always come to me. But from the age of 4 or 5, I said I wanted to be a veterinarian. That was my love. That was my dream. And my parents, my mom and my grandma, what they did was they watered that seed, right? They watered that dream. And so they gave me pets, and they allowed me to have strays. And I think at one particular point in time, I had 26 animals, ranging from dog and bird to goat and pig. And even in high school, and it wasn't a farm. We never grew up on a farm.
Goat and pig, Terry.
We never grew up on no farm. And right now, I'm still trying to figure out how my grandparent, my mommy and my grandmother allowed me to have so many pets. And what started to happen was they'd get sick, they'd get wounds, and I was instinctively taking care of them. I didn't turn away from blood or anything like that. And I remember at the age of 8 writing the Governor General and saying, you know, we do not take care of our animals in this country, and I'm going to see to it that we have a shelter. And he wrote me back. So picture this one dream. I go through high school, I get the grades, everybody calls me Dr. Doolittle, and everybody knows I'm going to be the veterinarian. I did not come from a family with money, so my mother and my grandmother made it very clear, you need to get a scholarship. We don't have the money for the Ivy Leagues and all of that. I got a scholarship, got to Cuba, studied veterinary medicine en español, imagínate, todo está en español. Had to learn everything in Spanish. Sí, está bien, qué bueno. Came home super excited, because now I'm going to realize my dream. Went to the vet board with my certificate, and I'm like, okay, when do I sit this exam? When do I register? And they were like, yo, sorry, we have bad news. We do not accredit students who study in veterinary medicine. We do not accredit students who study vet med in Cuba. And I was like, what? because I had my blinkers on. I wasn't looking at a contingency plan. I wasn't looking at a plan B. And I remember my mother bawling in the parking lot because she asked me, well, what are you going to do? And I said, Mom, I have no idea. I did not have cushion subjects to say try out business or accounts. And I literally turned to my mom and said, you know what, Mom? I don't know where I'm going to be right now. I don't know what my immediate plan is going to be, but I know that I'm going to be all right. So that is just in a nutshell, taking you from me always wanting this dream to actually going through the steps, doing everything in my power, having the right attitude, to that door being slammed in my face.
Yeah, I know. I mean, and I like that you got to the punchline already, but I just want to dial back a little bit. So because there are so many big moments. Yeah, there's so many. Well, there are layers, but there are so many moments and events in there where you went big again. First of all, at 8 years old, you're writing the Governor General.
Yeah, yeah. Even now, I look back on it and I go, well, how dare you? And I think that is what I'm talking about. I'm talking about the attitude of audacity. And I think that is what we're trying to talk to our Caribbean Massive. And what we're saying is, forget the fear. Our faith is greater than our fear. And what we need to do is not only just have belief in self, as in, yeah, we can do this, but to actually have the attitude of audacity that now takes you to the next level. So at 8, I had a message. Governor General is the highest ranking person, and I thought I would let him know. And I think that is the level of audacity that we need to have in our lives to take ourselves and our personal brands from point A to point B.
Yeah, yeah, and 26 pets in a family home, is not plain. It's small either. All right, but
I tell you,
we'll go past that, right? So we get to Cuba. Everybody habla español. Right, I can't all that well, I just do a few words here and there, right? So everybody's speaking Spanish. Your courses are in Spanish. Your lecturers speaking Spanish. There's no English. Hey, let's talk English speakers.
Kevin, I thought the teachers were bilingual. All this time we were going to Cuba. I don't know why I thought that Cuba was just the location, but that we were going to be given teachers who spoke English. So the first day of class, we collect our books, they give us our dorm. I'm settling in and the teacher comes in, Marisol, I'll never forget her name. And she's like, hola, buenos dias. And I was like, let me raise the mano and ask. And I said, excuse me, but we speak English. And she was like, bueno, hablamos español. And they made absolutely no attempt to speak English with you. And you had to realize right then and there, either you were gonna get with the program, have a certain level, a mindset that is now open, and you're gonna give it all. Some Caribbean students dropped out within the first week. Some of them said that they couldn't deal with Cuba because we didn't have stoves and you had water lockoffs and that level of discomfort and inconvenience. Some people said they didn't sign up for that. And so you had some Caribbean students dropping out from week 1, the first semester. They just couldn't handle the pressure. Whereas there are some of us who were like, listen, we may have very little resources, but we're going to do what we have to do with what we have to do to get by.
I always have so much respect for people who speak more than one language. Like I always remember on a flight back from Germany to Tobago, the air hostesses, they would come and speak to me in French because they assume I'm African, but when they realize I'm not African, they would speak to me in English. Then they'll speak to a guy next to me in Spanish, and then they go down the road and they speak in German. Somebody's like, wow, like that.
That's impressive.
That is insane, and I don't know. So the traditional school method of teaching languages, you go to a class, you learn your vocab, you're
for 45 minutes.
Right? But you had a different approach of...
It was immersive.
Yeah, so tell us about that.
So what happened is that for most students, what they do is they go to the class and become a part of what we're accustomed to, the curriculum. And what I did is I believe that learning is by doing. Like, stop talking about it. Stop talking about what you're going to do and do it, because it is by doing it that you learn. So the first 2 weeks, I sculled class. I said, Marisol, I don't know where you depend, I don't understand nothing what you're saying. So what I did was I hit the clubs, I hit the boulevard, I was at the supermarkets, anywhere Cubans were, I was. And in my building on the second floor, that's where some Cubans used to live on property. And they used to always pass whenever I was going up the stairs, and they were always dancing and playing their music. And one day I stopped and they started speaking to me, and they said, you know, like the gesture, do you want to dance? And I was like, of course, because my personality is very, bring it on. And I realized when I stopped every day and started to learn how to dance, I had to start understanding the instructions. So for the first 2 weeks, it was about learning while doing. So I wasn't doing the book. And after my 2 weeks, I was not just speaking the Spanish, the proper Spanish. I was speaking the Cuban slang. Que bola hacer, como está, todo está bien. When I went back to the class, and I sit down here, you know, become the same, I'm going to wait for Marisol. And when she walked into the class,
Marisol ain't ready.
Listen, Marisol ain't ready for this. When she started to speak, I understood because I had opened my mind to take in information. And so we all can't be thinking about getting bigger, expanding our territory and being bigger brands if you're not willing to open your mind. Look at where you are, no matter how small that place may be. You may not be in the space that you thought you were going to be in, but ask, how much can I absorb right now? And that was the beginning to my, you know, me being bilingual.
But tell me though, like, so going through all I mean, you're dancing, people saying whatever's left foot in Spanish. And
mira, para allá, izquierda, derecho, da vuelta.
Right, and you there, well, shucks. Well, you know, and it wasn't. I mean, that's that process, that 2 week process every day. Because I mean, I could give you a very small example, right? So, well, as you see, I wear glasses. I was trying to get contacts, and I would go. I would go every twice a week to the optometrist, and they would teach me, "All right, Kevin, this is how you put in your contacts." And I would try to get my finger on my eyeball, and
I tremble.
You know, and we would sit there for like an hour and a half, and it was like, all right, Tuesday when they come back, we'll try again. Eventually, no, I'm no Terri-Karelle. I gave up. I just said, hey, let me get some nice glasses frames, and let me press on in my life because this is taking too long. This is frustrating, right?
Kevin, you know what I realized though? I don't mean to cut you, but you know what I realized? In order for us to grow, we feel uncomfortable. Some of our best growth, the best learning and the best growth and expansion we will ever experience in our lives came from areas of discomfort. And I said it recently that there are animals in the animal kingdom that if they do not go through a cocooning stage or a molting stage, snakes shed their skin. Some of them it's really, really painful, but they have to go through that transformation because if they don't, their species die. So for me, I realize that when I feel uncomfortable, it's a good sign, because it means that I'm stepping out of my comfort zone. I'm no longer being safe, but I am daring myself to dive in, try it out, experiment, fail if I fail fast, keep it moving. So I like feeling a little bit uncomfortable, and then I challenge myself to do it anyway.
So you were like 22 or 23 at the time, right? That you lived in Cuba trying to learn the Spanish and everything, right? So
correct. Te quiero también, Justin. Te quiero.
Go Justin. Big up to Justin. All right. All right. So yeah, you're immersed in this atmosphere at 23 years old. But it's like, were you always comfortable, feeling comfortable? Like, where you get that wisdom from?
You know, there's a difference when I think grandparents raise you. I think there is a different kind of wisdom. They use these proverbs all the time. You know, when you grow up and you see your grandparents or your mother, you know, use the very little resources, what they do is they show you that you are above your circumstances. They are showing you by example that you are not defined by where you're at or what you are defined by what you do. So I realized that from early. So I've just told myself, listen, the difference between persons and those who make it and those who don't, those who are successful and those who don't, are that some of us are willing to just take the risk, to just bet on ourselves. That's the single biggest difference between those of us who just get a little bit further than others, because we literally say, you know what? I'm gonna take a risk on myself. And we stick to it consistently.
All right. So you go back to class, you mash up Marisol. You show Marisol
I'm-
that you're right.
Listen.
You show Marisol that your Cuban dialect better than Hoon. Right. So before even get to the graduation part, right? Because I know you were in Cuba from late 2000 to
2007.
Mid 2007 or so, right? With 2005, you went into Miss Jamaica World. Right?
Yeah, Dread. Crazy. Crazy. To this day, people look at me and they go, you don't even act like a beauty queen. Like you don't come across like a beauty queen. In 2005, Kevin, I come home and for 3 years, consecutive years, I've been told you should enter Miss Jamaica. And I'm like, no, I'm not interested in beauty pageants. I'm a tomboy, really just rough, just a boy. And I used to rock a big afro on dorm. And I was like, what would I do as a beauty queen? Like, no, I'm not interested. And what happened is every single year I would come home from Cuba. And because the school year finishes late, all the summer jobs were always taken. And one year in 2005, I came home and I tell you, all of my amazing stories of triumph came after roadblocks and they came after rejection, which is why I'm here to tell anybody who's watching, rejection is redirection. I came home one year broke and just wanting money and being miserable because I'm somebody who needs to do something to get a little bit of items to take back to Cuba. And I ran into a guy, Mark McDonald, who was a personal trainer at the gym that is the home of Miss Jamaica World. He's been trying for years. I jump on a bus. I am taking the public transportation system when I enter Miss Jamaica World. I just want people to understand we are not defined by our present circumstances. I literally take a bus and I end up sitting down beside him and he says, yo, enter Miss Jamaica now. The deadline is tomorrow and I think you should do it. You can't have me ask you every single year. And I said, boy, it's not like I'm doing anything for the summer. I'm not doing anything. And I said, all right, I'll enter. I entered on the day of the deadline. Put in my liquor submission, jump back on my bus and I went back home. And I was like, I don't even know what I just did. And then they sent a message telling everybody, come out for the auditions. We're choosing 16 of you guys. We showed up at the Jamaica Pegasus, and when the elevator opened up, Kevin, I saw 120 girls, makeup, hair, and I'm just like, what am I doing here? Because poor me, throw on a swimsuit, hair, big afro, no makeup, and I'm just like, I have no business here. I have absolutely no business here. But I say, Lord, you make me come here. I'm already here. Me I go do my thing. Because I saw my stay. Boom. So they asked all of us, get our numbers to introduce ourselves. And I'm sitting down looking at all the girls saying, she's going to get chosen. She's definitely going to get chosen. Because I think as human beings and as Caribbean people, I think we project a lot. So we can always see the gifts and talents in other people. But it's like we find it hard to find the talents and to define the talents of our inner selves, right? When them count up to contestant number 13, they said, contestant number 14, Terri-Karelle. And I jumped up and I remembered all the other girls around me clapping, which is weird because we didn't know each other yet, but they thought that I was a nice girl. That's the few minutes we were there. So I get chosen, I'm contestant number 14, and I'm like, oh snap, what the hell does this require me to do now? Because I never expect to get this far. And over the period of a month, we had to prepare. And when we did our first public appearance, I did well. I mean, all the girls were very nice and poised, and I'm like, yeah! And I'm waving at people because that's what I do. Right. And when I did that, people started cheering for me. And my mom, when I saw her afterwards, I was like, how did I do? And she said, you did very, very well. I'm very proud of you. And I said, well, why do you look that way? She said, well, a woman came to me and she asked me, is that your daughter, contestant number 14? And my mother was like, yeah, that's my baby girl. And she said, she's beautiful, nice personality, seems to be a people person, very bubbly. It's a pity she won't win.
Ooh.
What?
So after
in Jamaica, we just said, but she bright and out of order.
Yeah, she bright and feisty. Go on.
Exactly. Exactly. So what I did was I told my mommy, don't worry about it. People are going to be insecure for whatever reason. It has nothing to do with me. And so what the woman said basically was, she don't look like the girls who win. She darker in comparison to the other girls. The natural hair, she will have a pick a struggle. She's going to either be dark with straight hair or she's got to be brown with an afro. And I remember going through for the entire month and people rooting and saying, boy, we don't feel the judges are going to give you. But you know what? We're rooting for you. And on the day before the finals, we met with our hair sponsors and they left me for last. And they asked me, what do you want to do for the finals tomorrow? And I was like, we're going to wash it. We're going to condition it. And we're going to keep this party going. And they were like, you sure you don't want to? I said, we're going to wash it. We're going to condition it. And we're going to keep it moving. So I show up on the finals with my afro because I tell myself, if I'm going to lose today, I am losing in my authentic self. Walk. Them say, most talented, contestant number 14. Someone say, even if I don't win the crown, at least the people them know I'm talented. Then they said, the most aware, who is the lady who is brightest, and most aware. Contestant number 14, someone say, oh, I'm talented and I'm bright. Then they said, the most congenial is contestant number 14. Someone said, me not have to win the crown. Me done land.
Clean up.
But when they called me as Miss Jamaica World, it turned the entire country upside down. And it was a stepping out, if you will, and a recognition and an acknowledgement for women who were Black, women who had natural hair, and were just okay at just being who they are. And I kept that all the way to Miss World, where the people then came back and said, but that could have worked for Jamaica. That can't work for foreign with Venezuela and Colombia.
If anybody who has goosebumps right now, just type yes in the chat. Just type yes.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness. So picture, Kevin, I go to Miss World in China. My mother didn't have any money to come. My franchise holders didn't come. I didn't have anybody in the audience for me. Usually a Miss Jamaica World, family members who can afford it can go. So here it is. I'm going through the month. I place in all my sectionals. I'm ending up in the newspaper with my afro. I show up on asianbeauties.com. Look for me good. I am not an Asian. And I asked the photographer, how did I end up on asianbeauties.com? And you know what he said to me with his translator? He said, when I look at the 100 plus girls who are here at Miss World, he says, I know where Miss Jamaica is. He's like, your hair. You always had your hair out. You were always different. He said you were easily recognizable. And I said, how easy it is for people to use the one thing that helps you to stand out from a crowd, to take that away from you, for you to blend in. And I ended up placing in all sectionals, placed in the top 15, saw my flags raised, was asked my interview question, and was voted People's Choice for the Caribbean.
Terry, as you talk about that, not dulling your shine or not dimming down your own light just to fit in with everybody else, I want you to segue into a story where you were hosting an event with some children, and most of the children were dressed pretty casual, maybe a t-shirt, maybe a polo, whatever it is. And there was one young man who entered.
Oh, Mr. Bowtie.
Bowtie, with the bow tie.
Mr. Bowtie Guy. So for those of you who don't know, Mr. Bowtie Guy is probably my most impactful video of last year. I've gone all over the world, and people as far as Japan have told me that video did lots for me. So for those of you who might not be Jamaican, Mr. Bowtie Guy, I was invited as a speaker at the Florida Caribbean Students Association Leadership Summit in Daytona Beach, Florida. And I was the keynote on the Friday, and then I was the moderator for the town hall meeting. We're looking at 350 students, all of which are either Caribbean born or born to Caribbean parents. This guy walks in, students are settling. He got on a suit, normal suit. He got on a bow tie. He catches my eye instantly. I get goosebumps every time I recall the story. I wanted to say something to him, but I didn't get to because I was engaged by another impressive Bayesian guy. And I turned to a girl walking up behind him and I said, "What college is that?" And she told me. So we're getting ready to start the show. We're doing housekeeping. And I said, before we get started, I said, there is a young man that I just want big up. I said, he's wearing a bow tie. Silence. Crickets, tumbleweed, nobody gets up, nobody says anything. So I'm like, he's from X college. I barely see a hand go up. And then I see this guy stand up and he not wearing his bow tie. And he said, "I'm so sorry, ma'am." Very polite. He said, "It was squeezing my neck." And I said, "All right, no problem." I already knew why he took off his bow tie. But I said, no problem, because I don't believe in embarrassing people or putting them on the spot. And that boy bothered me for the entire day in my heart. But I would get a chance to see him again in the night where we had this gala, which was the culmination. He walked up to me and he said, "Miss Karelle, ma'am, I'm really, really sorry that when you called on me today, I did not have on my bow tie." And I said, "My darling, do not apologize to me." I said, "Apologize to yourself." I said, "Let me ask." Yeah. Ouch. I said, "Let me ask you a question." I said, "If I had stopped you when you were coming in, and if I had complimented you on your look, would you have taken off your bow tie?" He held his head down and he said, "No, I wouldn't have." I said, "That's the problem." I said, "Let me tell you what you did. You got up feeling good, looking good. You put on your suit. You put on your tie, your bow tie. You came into a room with other students who were dressed appropriately, but they were basic. They were basic. And when you looked around and you realized that everybody was basic, instead of you being comfortable and being the boss and being the king that you stepped out of your house looking like, you decided to remove your bow tie to be basic, just like everyone else." And here it is, the moment of truth. I call you out when you least expect it, because you have started, you planted an impression on me. And I am now calling you out. That call out could have been a sponsorship, a scholarship, a promotion, a job interview. That could have been an opportunity. And you failed it because you were trying to be like everyone else. And that is what I tried to tell people. I said, the next time you go into a room, you dress to impress, not for other people, but you do it for yourself. And he looked at me and he said, "Ma'am," he was such a nice guy. He said, "Ma'am, I promise you, this will never happen to me again." I said, "Don't promise me." I said, "Promise yourself." That is how people lose opportunities, because we're so busy worried about how other people are going to view us. They're going to think that we're too extra. If you think I'm extra because I like to dress well, so be it. That has nothing to do with me. Your insecurities have nothing to do with me. If you want to wear flip-flops and maxi dress to a gala where you're supposed to be a gown, you're not going to make me feel inadequate or bad for wearing a gown. So Mr. Bowtie Guy today has been one of the greatest lessons where I tell my Caribbean people, stop sitting in the back of the room. What are you sitting in the back of the room for? Your front seat appearance. Put up your hand and ask your question. Be seen, be heard. Stop playing small.
So how much of this do you think is institutionalized, and it's really like it's because of the pressures of society? So I mean, when we were kids, right? We grew up, we just do whatever we want, right? Our friend, you have a black friend, white friend, Chinese friend, Indian friend. You don't even really know the difference, right? You're just seeing people, right? You're just behaving like how you want to behave, right? But I mean, you go to school, you go to secondary school, they tell you put on this uniform. They tell you put on, you can't have any white swoosh in your black sneakers and all these things. So how much of this do you find like,
it's a big part.
Holds back people's self-expression, right? And
huge part.
Dress, when clubs tell you they dress code and everything, and people tell you, hey, this gala is semi-casual, and you go there in your suits and everything dress up, and everybody else is in a shirt and a pants, and everybody's comfortable.
Yeah, but you see, you have a standard. And again, I tell people your excellence is unconditional. So you're going to show up and you're going to show out regardless of what other people say. But it is cultural. You see, we tell people, we tell ourselves, we are taught at home, church, community, extracurricular, or society. And it's not a Jamaican thing. This is a Caribbean thing. We are taught that by somehow playing small and downplaying ourselves, it's humility. And, you know, humility is the best thing since sliced bread. You are not, you're told that if you are too outspoken, if you are too vocal, if you're too self-assured and self-aware, and if you're too confident, you're extra. You are labeled. And I want people to if I'm wrong, let me know. When we are our most authentic selves and we are showing up excellently, if we're straight A students, people label us. You're going like you're brighter than us. If we dress properly, you're going like you're better than us. We are labeled for being great at what we do. So after you hear that over and over and over again, what happens is that we start to tell ourselves, all right, we don't want people single us out. We don't want to be misfits. We don't want to stand out, because in our culture, standing out is not being humble. Standing out is being bad. So we conform. We conform.
No, that's it. That's itself, right? All right. So I wanna segue into your media career, right? Because the vet career is formally over. You can't, like you told me the other day, you couldn't legally go and take care of anybody's animals because the Jamaica Accreditation Board said no.
Illegal business that you are talking about, you know, Kevin. That are some illegal business. All right.
Right. So tell us what happened next, because for many people would take that experience and be like, oh God, boy, what do I do now? I just wasted 6 or 7 years of my life. You know, what do I do? Should I go and buy groceries, anything? What do I do? So tell me how you're able to, I mean, this word is so popular now, how you're able to pivot.
Mm-hmm.
Pivot, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pivot into the media space, into that first PRO, that public relations officer role.
Right. I think the first thing, by the way, Karen, I know you have 2 little kittens. Big up to Archimedes, and I can't remember what the other one name. I think we have 2 choices. I am someone who believes that you know, if you can't, I can't control everything. And so I can only take care of that which I can control. And so for me, I could stay home and I could cuss the government and cuss this and blame that and become bitter and angry, which only holds me back. Or I could now say, all right, where do I go from here? And this is why I'm going to ask all your viewers, all your listeners to just dig deep, because a lot of gifts that we have and a lot of talents we have, we take for granted. You've been a great speaker. You've just always been a great speaker. You don't realize that there's money to be made and there's a profession in being a public speaker. You know, maybe you are good at research, you know, you read a lot of books, but we take these things for granted and we don't realize that these can actually be the foundation for income. So when VetMed locked the door on me, I said, boy, Jano, I said, what are you going to do? Because like most people, you define yourself by what you study. You define yourself by the dream that you had in mind. And when that mash up, you mash up. All of a sudden, you're not worth anything. And so I remembered getting a call saying, Terri-Karelle, you know, we have a job for public relations. I said, about public relations? I don't have a resume. I said, but we don't know nothing about no public relations. Who you offer me public relations? And they said, 2 years ago, when you were in Jamaica, something happened in a lobby and you took the initiative and you were able to relate to 2 parties in the space, and everybody was able to understand and keep it moving. You had absolutely no, allegiance to any of these people. And I was like, yes. So they were like, not many people can do that, believe it or not. If you can relate, we want to hire you. Kevin, me never know, but with the attitude of audacity, must say, all right, is an opportunity. And if God grant me this opportunity, then quite frankly, he has to equip me to deal with this job. I get in the job. I soak up every Jesus thing, because learning is in the doing. After that, Mickey Horton James comes to me from Spartan Health Club and says he's looking for a general manager. So I said, well, why you tell me that for? He said, well, when you were a chaperone one summer, you showed great organizational skills, great people skills, a lot of skills that, again, I did not even know were skills, soft skills. And I said, me don't know about the general management thing, but guess what? I'm going to take it. And I soaked up and I learned. Media, people came to me and said, Terry, you know, we think you'd be a great person for media. Would you like to try live TV? I'm not qualified. I've never gone to Carrie Mack, but I said, sure. So my attitude has always been to learn, unlearn, and relearn. I'm not going to hold on to a traditional mentality of, well, you studied vet med, you're going to look like a failure because you're not practicing. You know, you're not a doctor no more. So what the people them are going to say, I don't care. What I did was I opened up my mind and I hit everything. And I was just excellent in everything that I did. It also showed me and reminded me that people are watching you out of your season. So when my season wasn't here and I was just a broke student, I was still operating in my excellence. So people were viewing me out of my season. That when my season came, those persons who were on the outskirts now came to me and said, all right, we're going to help you in this season. So I tell people you can't be excellent when you get the CEO job. You have to be excellent from the smallest role you get. Because if you can't honor the small role, you can't honor the big role. So I pivoted all my life, entering arenas that I have no business in, but telling myself, I'm going to do it anyway.
Terry, so many of us inside of here, we don't know that you are in fact an introvert, right? And we discussed this, yeah. And I try to tell people that I'm also introverted in a way too, but nobody believes me, and they're not going to believe you. They're definitely not going to believe.
They
you.
never do. They never do. They never do.
So tell me that first speak. that first speaking gig that you were given. Like, how did you go about preparing for that?
All right, so here's the thing. I don't believe in labels, okay? Because labels can keep you in a box. All right. A lot of us, when we find out we're one thing or another, we stay restricted by the box. So I am an introvert. I am actually an INTJ. I actually did the test. And I'm going to explain to persons that even though I'm an introvert, I do not allow the label to define how I move about in spaces. So not because I'm an introvert, it means I'm going to stay home, be shy, and be socially awkward. I can separate the two. When I'm out of the public's eye, you know, I'd rather be at home reading a book. Right now, Corona, all of us are staying home. For some people, they're tearing out their hair. For me, it is bliss. For me, this is what I love, and I thrive in a space where I'm just in my space. But public speaking is never an issue for me because to the core, I love people and I love connecting with people. And if I have a message, it's not about me, it's about them. So I think it depends on how you speak to yourself, the language you use to yourself. If you go up there saying, I am presenting a speech, I am presenting, then yeah, a lot of your thoughts are going to come around and they're going to center you. But if you go on that stage or your Zoom meeting and you go, these people have come to listen to me speak, I am honored. The topic is stop playing small, and I'm going to give up all of myself to see if I can inspire even one person. When I talk to myself, and if we speak to ourselves and we are careful with the language we use, we empower rather than we shrink. So my introversion does not affect how I'm able to perform, because my performance is never about me. It's always about who is receiving me on the other side.
Right. So tell us about that road to getting those international gigs now.
All right, the road. Oh, I saw Karen say I'm now a website developer.
Yeah. We get into that.
Boy, I tell you.
Karen Rose.
So how do you get the international gigs? You know, as Caribbean people, you know, we like to talk about the destination. We acknowledge and we identify people who are doing amazing things at the top of their game and all of these big brands, and we're like, yo, why that can't be me? And I'm like, but it can be you. but what are you doing to get to that level? You can't be talking about the destination and you don't want to actually respect and trust the process. You know, these people never just grow big overnight. These people were consistent, and even though there were naysayers and people saying you can't do this, and they stuck to it, and they stuck to it. And so how I started to book international gigs is showing up every single day as me. So my audience knows that what I say and what I do is actually me to the core. I'm not trying to go on a yacht to make it look as if I'm rich and like I'm a billionaire and I am going to now sail to Dubai for the weekend. I'm not trying to put on no impression for anybody. And I find that authenticity works. Respecting people, even in your captions, the images that you use for yourself is not just to respect your brand, but it's to respect the persons who opt into your content. And then you don't tell them what you do, you show them. So I don't have to tell people, book me for your next event. I show them. I show them through the art of storytelling, and I show them using clips with makeup, without makeup, hair comb, hair no comb. And you find that people, when they see you show up consistently all the time, and excellence and authenticity and passion and integrity are always the common themes, eventually they start to reach out to you. They start to say, we would love to have you in Singapore, which I actually got invited to, Grenada, Domrep, Germany. The opportunities are there, but we're too busy playing small. We're too busy saying, no, son, I don't really want to dash out so much because people might think I'm going too hard. Go hard, because if you don't go hard for your own brand, and if you aren't your own cheerleader, don't expect other people to do it for you. You have to hype yourself and show what your value is, or nobody else will actually acknowledge that value for you.
So Terry, no hosting gigs in Trinidad and Tobago?
Where have you gone? You've disappeared out of my ears. Let me see.
Yeah. No problems. All right, let's get some questions while Terry get them AirPods back in again. You hear me?
Why I can't hear you? My audio has completely gone.
All right, let's get the questions while
You might actually have to start typing.
That'll be funny.
I got you. I can hear you now. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you good? Sweet. Right. Yeah, so I was asking, so no hosting gigs in Trinidad and Tobago?
You know, no Trinidad, no Massive has ever invited me to Trinidad. I've been to Trinidad, love Trinidad, never went for carnival. I actually went and visited your Pitch Lake, and I got to go into a pan yard and they played the steel pan, the All-Stars. I went and go out to look on your Scarlet Ibis,
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I did all of Maracas, your Chow, your Pom City, I did everything. But nobody has invited me to Trinidad.
Any trainees inside here want to invite Terry to come and host the event? Look. Asha inviting you. Jamil is inviting you. No, Karen invite you already.
I mean, Trinidadians, yeah. I just need the invitation. Absolutely. And I will be there.
Isn't your best friend a Trini?
My best friend is a Trini. And she always, oh good, oh good, oh God. But I know right now the border is closed, but I think what we do need to do in all honesty is I see a lot of, these big international spaces inviting us, for those of us who are not afraid to be bold and to be daring. They invite us into their spaces, but again, even when it comes to the Caribbean, we're a little bit closed. We're very, very closed. We're very, very cliquish, and we don't realize that there's so much talent and knowledge and expertise in a lot of us, but our own neighbors don't invite us. And I don't know if we invite our neighbors either. We tend to get a lot of their attention. Also, hopefully we can change one podcast at a time.
When Jamila is asking for the Caribbean Power Lunch Conference. What do you think?
I think that's a good scene.
All right. So, we talk about being bold and expressing ourselves, right? But many of us are quietly trying to do some good work. So we're not as savvy with the social media. We're not comfortable with social media. Like, how do we do this? How do you time it? Should we put this image? Should we put a video? What's the algorithm going to do? And all of these things. And it's just kind of, it's just like, oh, God. Let me just...
Tiring.
Yeah, it's tiring. It's tiring, right? And even when you you take your time to craft a nice piece of content, what you think is a nice piece of content, you put it out. A few people see it, a few people like it, So,
Right. Right.
and it's like how do you keep that fire in yourself to just keep going and keep being you, as opposed to just kind of conforming, and you see, because you see what works, right? You see, a lot of people. All right, I'm gonna be careful how I say this. Yes, thank you. Right? So for those who are just listening, to the replay, Terry is pretending to be a thirst trap, right? But so how do we? So you see that it's conventional. People are selling, thirst trapness, or they're selling aspirational lifestyles, like the whole Dubai, the boats, the water houses, and all of these things. Like, so how do we just authentically just get that confidence to go out there?